Hello everyone, and welcome to Advancing Human Rights, Access for Refugees and Immigrants in Boulder City, brought to you by the Ilalle Hill Organization and the generosity of the City of Boulder Human Rights Division. I'm proud to introduce Catherine O. Brown, who will share her knowledge and experience. She has specialized in immigration and naturalization law for 25 years, beginning her Boulder County practice in 2002. She focuses on family immigration, business immigration, naturalization, asylum, and refugees. She currently focuses on immigration advocacy and federal litigation and managing immigration delays for immigrants, and now Advancing Human Rights, Access for Refugees and Immigrants in Boulder City by Catherine Brown. Please welcome Catherine Brown.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, everyone, for letting me come here. It's a great privilege to come to the Ilalle Organization and meet all of you. When Frank and Lojo met with me before this talk, I was prepared to talk to people that were going through the process, people that haven't been through the immigration process, and Lojo mentioned, well, a lot of us are citizens. Like, we just want to know what our rights are as citizens. And I said, oh, okay. Well, so it's a little bit out of my wheelhouse because typically I just get people through the citizenship process or the green card process or refugee process. So if I don't know something, I promise I will try to answer it through Lojo or Frank to get back to you. It's just because I don't practice. This is kind of more what I would call civil rights information. With that said, I'll just go ahead and jump right in. So essentially, I'm just going to go through kind of what the sources of American law is on the issue of citizenship rights. Is anybody here not a citizen and is going through the process of naturalization? Anybody? You? Okay. All right, well, we'll talk after. So I might skip the naturalization process since it sounds like everybody's a citizen. Awesome. So I can skip that section. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about derivative citizenship because I don't think everybody knows exactly how some people are automatic citizens. We all know that if you're born in the United States, you're an automatic citizen, but what if you're born abroad? Sometimes those people are citizens. What if your parent naturalizes? Sometimes you become an automatic citizen based on that. So we can talk about that, and then of course my favorite section, your rights and privileges as a citizen. And then maybe the more scarier, concerning stuff that you might want to discuss, which is can I lose my citizenship? And what happens in today's world? Like, what if ICE detains me? What if the cops arrest me? Like, what do I do? So with that said, I'm going to use my fancy cursor here, and we'll go into the source of law. So, kids, this is a very important question. Do you know what a law is?
Yes.
What's a law?
I don't really know how to explain it, but yeah.
What, do your parents have laws at home?
No.
Nothing? No laws? Like bedtime is not, there's no rule on bedtime. How about rules? You guys have rules? Rules are basically, laws are just basically big rules, right? So the source of our rules derive in the United States from the Constitution, which is, everybody learned in the citizenship process, the supreme law of the land. It is the top dog. And when our forefathers made the Constitution, they made it, and then they're like, wait a minute, we're a little worried. There's not specific things that protect individuals. So they tacked on 10 extra things. Does anybody know what those 10 extra things are? No. The Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights, which is essentially what comes down to our rights as individual persons living in the United States and being citizens. So let's talk about a few of those. The First Amendment, there's 10 of them, right? The First Amendment is packed with a bunch of stuff. You might see it in the news quite often. It's freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, which means you can get together and not be hassled or arrested, and what we call freedom of petition, which means you can address your grievances without being harassed. So the First Amendment is packed with a bunch of stuff. Then we have the Second Amendment. Anybody know what the Second Amendment is about? You see it in the news a lot. It's the right to bear arms. That's kind of an old British term for owning a gun. I think we're one of the few countries in the world that has it written in the Constitution. So I'm going to skip over that one for a second. The big one that you all should know about is the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment is also packed with a lot of stuff, but the big one is called unreasonable searches and seizures from law enforcement. You are protected under the Fourth Amendment from anything that's an unreasonable search and seizure, which also includes unlawful stops by law enforcement, okay? The Fifth Amendment also packed with a bunch of stuff. One of the more interesting ones, and these are all kind of reactions to the British. Way back when the British were kind of nasty, and so a lot of this is just, well, let's fix this. And but one of the interesting things that came out of the Fifth Amendment is this thing called due process of law. Due process of law. And it sounds way better if you have a British accent. But due process of law means, anybody? Starts with an F, and it rhymes with hair. Fair. It's about fairness, right? And it's fairness. That's a weird word, but anyhow, that's the word. Due process of law, which we'll get into, is about fairness. The Sixth Amendment is for criminal stuff, right to a fair and speedy trial. If you're charged with a criminal offense, right to legal counsel. The Eighth Amendment, you are protected from cruel and unusual punishment in this country. That is against the Constitution. And then the 13th, so the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment were not made at the beginning of the country. They were made at a different point in time. Does anybody know when that might have been?
19.
After the Civil War. The Civil War. You guys, I know you guys haven't studied it in school yet, but you'll learn about the Civil War. The Civil War was a terrible war between American citizens fighting each other. And the bottom line is we gave African born and then born in the U.S. slaves the right to citizenship. And we also said in that same amendment, amendment, that anybody born in the United States was a U.S. citizen. So this is the 14th Amendment that's been kind of talked about in the news lately, and we'll get into that, okay? So that's that. Then there's statutes. These are laws that are different than the Constitution, and they are created by Congress, because Congress in the federal system is the only entity that can make a law through statutes. And a lot of these there's thousands of statutes that impact your rights. But typically, when we're talking about personal rights of an American, you want to hook onto the word civil rights. So civil rights is kind of the nickname or overarching idea of your rights as an American. I have civil rights. And so the Civil Rights Act is kind of the classic example of a statute that helped to promote equality between Black Americans at the time in the 1960s and the rest of America. So it was a huge movement and helped tremendously to, I wouldn't say it's equal, but it helped to equalize the playing field for many Black Americans at that time and ongoing. Then another example is the American with the Disabilities Act. It's called the ADA. So if you have a friend, a relative, a child that has physical or mental disabilities, you have rights under this statute. So, and then there's a host of stuff under that. Fair Housing Act, you have rights to fair housing. Employment and labor rights. You as a citizen have rights to the Equal Pay Act, the Family Medical Leave Act. These are all, there's hundreds of things that could impact you. And even the Affordable Care Act, that was the most recent thing passed, that was probably the biggest piece of legislation in the last 30 years. The Affordable Care Act allows for a lot of changes to the private healthcare system. So those are all just kind of examples of how statutes can support your rights. Then there's agencies. So because Congress is not specialized, they don't know a lot about the American Disabilities Act, they create an agency, or they give it to an existing agency, and they say, you guys go figure it out. You guys are the experts. You go figure it out, and you kind of flesh out the statute we just gave you to make it more clear and tell people how to do it, and it just helps with making the statute effective, right? And these are called regulations. Regulations. We have a lot of regulations in America. So, and these are all a hierarchy. It's Constitution first, then statutes, then regulations. So I cannot have, so when you see things in the news, and you see there's a court procedure debating it, sometimes it's because there's a regulation or a statute that conflicts with the Constitution. And that's a big no-no, right? So none of these things can conflict with the Constitution. And a regulation is smaller than a statute. So it also cannot conflict with a statute. So there's a hierarchy to the laws that we have. And then we even have state stuff, which I'm not going to get into. So in any event, those are kind of some of the typical things regarding source of law. Now, you guys are all citizens, so we don't need to worry about that. Let's see. Everybody got a passport?
Yes.
Yay! Passports, yay! Okay, good. Okay, I can give you a quick and dirty on passports. Okay, so I want to give you a 2-second introduction to derivative citizenship. So everybody knows if you're born in the United States, doesn't matter who your parents are, if you're born physically on U.S. soil, you are an American citizen. It's called jus soli, and it's based off the French. It's a French term, but it basically means on our soil. Like anybody who's born on this soil is an American citizen. In fact, it's it's a minority of countries in the world that do this. Most countries do not. So the second way that people can become what we call or derive citizenship is if they're born abroad to American parents. If their parents are citizens and they're born in France or South Sudan, they still get the right to be a U.S. citizen. And then the other one that most people don't know about is the Child Citizenship Act. So this was a very important statute that was passed by Congress to help people that came here as permanent residents and their children. Because a lot of times parents would come and they thought the kids were automatically citizens, and then these kids would grow up and they're like, they're not citizens. So So they ended up creating a statute to allow children to become citizens automatically when that parent naturalizes and the child's under 18. Okay, so you can share that with anyone that is maybe got little ones and they're going through the process, but it's very important. And also, if you would adopt, if you're a U.S. citizen and you adopt a child, that child will also be a U.S. citizen. They do not have to what we call naturalize. Naturalization is the procedure for those who are becoming citizens. If you're a derivative citizen, you are a citizen. You just don't happen to have proof. Okay, so let's get into the fun stuff. The rights and privileges of a citizen. Okay, come on. Okay, before I do this, anybody know what a right or a privilege of a U.S. citizenship is? Yes.
Right is like a thing that you have a right to do that.
Yeah, like what can a citizen do that a refugee can't do? Any idea?
No.
What about an election?
I don't think they have a
I think you have right to vote.
They have the right to vote. So, okay, so immigrants, people that are immigrants in the United States, and immigrants is a non-U.S. citizen. They could be here for 50 years, but they do not have the right to vote. Okay, you have to be a citizen in order for you to have the right to vote. Let's talk about, so basically the bottom line is that Constitution that we first discussed, all those things in the Constitution now apply to you full on. Doesn't matter if you've been born here or naturalized. You are a citizen and can avail yourself of all those rights that everybody else does. We don't have a tier 2 citizen. Everybody's either in or out. The only difference being that you cannot run for president. I know. I'm sure you're very disappointed. You cannot be vice president or president, but everything else you can do, okay? So you have right to silence, you have a due process of law, you are protected from unreasonable search and seizure, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, all that stuff. The other things that apply to you is you can sponsor your family members if you do have family members in other countries, particularly your parents. So as a U.S. citizen, you can sponsor your parents, you can sponsor your siblings, and you can sponsor you can sponsor a fiance, where a permanent resident cannot do those kind of things. Okay, and the big one is you cannot be deported. You are not deportable. You have cut ties to the whole immigration system, and you cannot be deported. End of story, period. That is how it works. Okay, so let's get into this a little bit more because I know you guys have questions. Okay, here's a few more
privileges.
A couple other things on the legal political side of privileges. People don't know this, but sometimes you can be denied a job because you're not a citizen. This would be kind of a national security job, like if you worked at the Los Alamos National Lab. They don't let non-U.S. citizens work there. It's kind of rare, but and then of course you get to vote in any election you want. You get to serve on a jury. Has anybody served on a jury yet?
No.
Okay. Yeah, did you like it? Yeah, I know, it's kind of annoying. You have to take time out and you don't get any money, like very little money. I did it once, and I did it 3 times actually. Anyways, I can talk about that later, but I thought it was kind of fun. I like this stuff. You can be fully protected abroad. If you are in the UK and you lost your passport, or something happens to you, you can take advantage of the U.S. Embassy, the U.S. Consulate in that country, because you are a U.S. citizen. You have full access to all federal benefits. Full access. That is Social Security, Medicare, food stamps, HUD housing, anything Anything that Americans get, you can get as well, no questions asked. You cannot lose your status by just living abroad. You might have been told when you were a resident that you can't, don't be gone too long. That is all changed once you become a citizen, okay? Can I lose it? Can you lose your citizenship? It's possible, but very rare. So, 2 ways to lose it. 2 ways. One, you voluntarily say, I'm done. I don't want to be a U.S. citizen anymore. That's called renunciation. It's a big word. And you do it at an embassy. And you can never, never, never reverse it. It's one and done. So be very, very sure you want to do that if you end up renouncing. And then the second one is what we call denaturalization. Denaturalization. So denaturalization is, like I said, very rare. It's predominantly because someone gained citizenship through fraud. They lied. It's not because your eyes are blue or brown and the Trump had a bad day. It's literally, you have to prove, the government has to prove that you did a bad thing in terms of misrepresentation on your application or your green card. You became a member of a terrorist organization, so try not to do that. And then, this is a weird one, I didn't know this, but refusal to testify before Congress can get you denaturalized. And then treason. Treason. Anybody know what treason is?
No.
Treason.
What is that?
Yeah, I think treason is kind of organizing.
Yeah.
Problem.
Against who? Against the government, right? So you can traumatize your friends and your family, but you cannot overthrow the government. Treason is overthrowing the government. Again, this process is very rare. Denaturalization is the government's burden to prove. It's their burden. That means they have to come up with the evidence. And the evidence has to be clear and convincing. So, just so you know, it's difficult. Now, I know there's a lot of discussion about citizenship being lost, but I don't want you to really stress out about it too much because it's a cumbersome process. Okay, let's talk about citizenship, ICE, and the police in general, okay? So, first off, can ICE arrest you?
No.
No. What if they do though? What if they just are mean? What if they arrest you? What do you do?
Call the police.
You're gonna say to them, I'm a
Call the police.
U.S. citizen, right? You're gonna say, I'm a citizen. You can't arrest me. Go away. I'm me. I'm a citizen, right? They might say, prove it, right? They might be like, prove it to us. Okay. To avoid having problems, then carry around your passport, or you can also, you know how the book is thick and like square?
Yes.
You can get the passport card. Now, I know that it costs a little extra money, but it just fits in your wallet and it's like a driver's license. It looks like your green card, but it's like a citizenship card. And you can keep that on wherever you go, right? You can even travel with it. But in any event, you could get that and just carry it on your person, and then you don't have to worry. You don't have to say, well, my citizen stuff's at home, and they'll be like, okay, well, you know, we'll throw you in detention, and you can get your citizenship documents out in 3 days, right? So it's one way to protect yourself against any kind of unlawful situation. I do not recommend carrying around your naturalization certificate. Here's why. It's a very precious document. It takes a long time and a lot of money to get it replaced. So an initial passport's like 160 bucks. And I think one of those passport cards is like 120 bucks. It's totally worth it just to get one of those and keep this thing in a safe or under your bed or somewhere safe so that it can only be used in absolutely necessary events. And don't laminate it. That voids it. I don't know if you guys know what you guys know what lamination is. It's like all the teachers have it, right? Don't laminate it. Okay, and then update your social security card. If you haven't updated your social security card since you were a refugee or a permanent resident, update it now. You just make an appointment with the Social Security Administration office and get it updated, and there's a difference between the two, between a citizen and a non-citizen on the Social Security Administration. In Colorado, since you're all Colorado folks, there's no difference in your driver's license. You won't have a different, if you were a resident, of course all you guys were residents. So you don't need to worry about the driver's license. Some places, some other states, it's different. And then obviously stay informed. Read credible news. I wouldn't say Facebook is credible news, so be careful where you get your news. And maybe bone up or study a little bit more on what your rights are as a citizen that we've already kind of touched on. Okay, so this is this is where I'm a little bit out of my wheelhouse because I'm not a criminal defense attorney. I've taken criminal law in law school. So I'm just going to give you a basic overview because how this operates is the same as ICE. So it doesn't matter if it's bad cops, bad ICE, anybody who's what we call law enforcement is supposed to comply with these rules, okay? So law enforcement generally cannot search you, cannot search your home or your stuff without a warrant. A warrant. It's a funny word. Anybody know what a warrant is?
Yes.
What?
Like if you did something like bad, you get a warning. If you do it again,
Oh, you mean I think you think like a warning. A warrant is a piece of paper. A warrant is a piece of paper. It says, you know what, we've been watching you, and you've been doing some funny stuff over there, and so we're going to have the cops go pick you up because we have reasonable suspicion to believe that you're doing blah, blah, blah. So a warrant is an official document issued by a judge, and it has to be based on probable cause. Probable cause is the legal term. Okay, so this is, search and seizure law is thousands and thousands of pages. I spent an entire year on it, but basically the term is reasonableness. It has to be, you are protected up to a particular reasonableness, right? If you're not in a bubble. Like, so if the cops see you standing near a car at night and you start to run, they have, quote, probable cause to go arrest you because they think that you were trying to get into that car, right? So if you just stood there and acted cool and then flipped your driver's license to them and your registration and said, here's my car, I locked myself out, there's no probable cause, right? You have a question? No? Okay. Yes.
I did not have a question, however, I have done quite a bit of work signed warrant by a judge,
Okay.
not an officer.
That's right.
It has to be a judge, and no administrative warrant.
That's right. So ICE, first of all, pre-Trump, would use a judicial warrant, which is judicial means a judge, or they could use an administrative warrant, and that's not enough. And so they would kind of get away with it, right? But now the Trump administration is doing all kinds of things. They have a judicial warrant, they have an administrative warrant, they have no warrant. So the key thing is that it's issued by a judge and it says judge or magistrate on it. So if anybody's approaching you with a warrant, you say, I want to see the warrant, and you want to look at that warrant, and if it's signed by a judge, then it's a warrant, right? If it's signed by, Joe Smith, secretary of whatever, it's not enough, okay? It has to be issued by a judge in this country. All right, so warrants from judge has to be, and they have to be specific. Okay, what if you're being, quote, searched, right? You have a right to ask for the warrant. You can refuse consent if there's no warrant, meaning you can't search me. And you have the right to remain silent and get an attorney. Okay, those are all things. Anybody watch Law and Order? You watch Law and Order? You ever watch that show? No? Okay.
I just want to add, let's say we're doing home in
Different.
and not in
Yeah, so,
Yes.
yes. Okay, so, this isn't like connecting here. There we go. So, okay, so I handed out a Know Your Rights thing, but it was predominantly created, this is predominantly created for immigrants because they have less rights than citizens. But the same rule applies. So your home is a much different place than being out in public. Your home under the Constitution is exactly what the Fourth Amendment was built for. You cannot come into my house without a warrant. You cannot. And that's when you say, you cannot, I'm not opening the door, I'm not doing anything until you slip that underneath the thing. Okay? So nobody opens their door to cops. Got it? Nobody.
Yeah.
What about a car?
What?
The same.
Oh, no.
Cars are a little trickier.
No.
Cars can be searched if they have probable cause. Now, what you've been seeing on news with the ICE people banging people's windows closed, they're clearly violating that, right? They don't have probable cause. They're just whatever. In any event, your cars are a little tricky. Also, schools. Schools are a little tricky. So kids' lockers can be searched by law enforcement. There's no right to privacy in your locker. And so we kind of talked about a couple of these, but here's when a warrant isn't needed. You agree. If you came in, they don't need a warrant, right? So if you don't want to be searched, then tell them, I don't want to be searched. Don't agree. If there's something called plain view, if you were at the same car that we were talking about, and you had the carburetor in your hand and some kind of major tool in your hand, they could be like, okay, we have a reasonable cause. Like you just took this car apart. We have reasonable cause to believe that you tried to break into the car. So that would be plain view. Emergency situations where somebody's hurting somebody, right? That could be. What if you run away? We kind of talked about that. What if you run?
I think we got the right to rescue.
They do. So what's the rule out? What do we learn from that? Don't run. Do not run. I know it's scary, but do not run. It's like the classic, we have probable cause now, you just ran away, you're a bad person. Okay, so we've already kind of touched on all these, but I just want to regurgitate a couple things. I'm really doing a bare bones presentation here, so learn more about your civil rights, your privacy rights. We didn't really talk about the right to privacy, but the Constitution does give the right to privacy, the right to contraception. There's nothing written in the Constitution that says women have a right to contraception, but it's based on case law that has given us rights to privacy. Due process is also, which I can talk about more here at the end. If you get in a situation that's sticky, you want to make sure that you have evidence to prove it. Okay, in America, evidence is king. Document everything. Emails, print them out. Take photos. Don't throw away your stuff that might be incriminating to something. Call the police. If you have a situation where you believe you're being discriminated against or something's happening and you trust your local authorities, call them. They'll write up a police report and they'll figure it out. There's agencies that can help. So if there's a civil rights violation, you can talk to somebody from the Department of Justice. If there's a workplace discrimination, you can talk to somebody from what's called the EEOC, which is a workplace discriminatory agency that helps people with those. There's housing discrimination stuff. There's a lot of agencies that can help. If it gets sticky and you're like, I can't remember anything Catherine said, call a civil rights attorney. Call the ACLU. The ACLU or the Legal Aid Society in your community are your friends, and they can point you in the right direction. Okay? Every state, every city that's pretty big has an ACLU division, and the Colorado one is one of the best in the country. So call it. You might even have an action, what we call an action or a complaint, where you can file and get what we call, justice, basically. I was violated, I had, whatever. So, and then finally, I would say have a call tree. A call tree is, you don't get to call like 10 people when you're unlawfully detained. You get one call usually. So call the person who's gonna call everybody else. Make sure you have that person on speed dial. And that person, if it's your spouse or a friend, will then call your lawyer, and then call your mother, and then call whoever. Don't try to call 5 different people. Okay, I know you guys have questions.
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
We have two.
Oh, okay. Awesome. I'll do this one since I know what I'm doing here.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Ms. Catherine.
Yes.
My question is especially denaturalization.
Denaturalization, yeah.
Yes. So, what are those things that can make me to lose, other than maybe being, I don't know what.
It's only those things.
Yeah. How can I lose my naturalization or my citizenship?
Because you naturalized, the only way to be denaxed are those 4 things I mentioned. The biggie is if you lied on your application, right? If that's not a problem, if you commit treason, you start doing stuff against the government. Now, this is a little scary because we're in scary times, right? And you see people that are permanent residents who are standing up for Palestinian rights being whisked away, right? So you're in a more precarious situation than I would be because this government is setting up a denaturalization committee. I am not going to be denaturalized because I was a born citizen, but could they come up with a fake treason charge? They have to prove it in court. So how are they going to prove it in court? They could mess with you, but they're not going to be able to win because there's nothing out there on you. And the court systems in this country are pretty much the only remaining bulwark against what's happening in the Trump administration. So far, the courts are in your favor. So treason, fraud, failure to testify, and there was one more. I can't remember. Let's see. Fraud, terrorism. Okay, so stay away from terrorism. Okay.
Yeah, then the second question, let me ask all of them so that you can answer. One of them, like in case you say that I cannot open my door.
That's right.
If I'm at home. Because if I have a home, I know this my like a parking lot and my lawn in front of me is part of my home.
Yeah.
Should I, in case I ask the policeman at my parking lot that this is my plot, why do you come here in case? If I'm maybe knocking at the door, why should I have my right? Should I maybe stay outside or inside to have my right to tell the policeman I cannot allow you in my home, in my house?
So you're saying, is there a difference between being on your property outside, on your property, and being inside?
Yes. Is there a difference that should be treated?
There is a difference because you could be dealing with very scary police, very scary ICE people, right? So if you think about it from a, who is this person doing this? Let's just say it's ICE. Let's say ICE is out there.
Yes.
They're gonna take you off your property, likely. It could be a violation, but you're safer inside your house because they physically can't touch you. So the ideal situation is just to not, if you open the door, it could be considered consent. See, this is where it gets a little gray.
Okay.
So if in doubt, don't open the door, don't go outside. Okay?
Dati nga yung para sila marimel, yan kung kill ng marimel.
If I got the video camera.
Don't open the door. Say, I'm sorry, yeah, I need to see a warrant. And they could get mean and nasty, it's not your problem. You have to see the warrant through your little peephole, or ideally, have it slip it under the door. Now, sometimes the door is too thick. So what you could do is like take a picture of the warrant and I guess you have to give them your number. I don't like that. I don't know. This is where it's a little bit out of my window or yeah, under the doors.
That if, for instance, you have to verify that was signed by a judge.
Yeah.
And two, that the name listed on that
Is you.
warrant is you. That if you don't recognize the name, again, do not open
The door. Yeah.
Do not open the door.
Okay, so just so you guys heard, Rhoda said, make sure your name's on it too. That's correct. And that a judge signed it, not anybody.
So because I'm part of the project for the Boulder County, and there are a lot of resources on the Boulder County website around immigration.
Okay.
There's what's called preparedness plan for a family, and I recommend any family to have that preparedness plan in place, just in case if an adult was detained by ICE, then the family has that as a reference what to do next.
Okay.
And you can print the preparedness plan, and also you can work with an immigration lawyer to fill out, because you need to notarize some of the documents.
Yeah, those are typically for people that are not U.S. citizens, because they can be detained for days or weeks because they don't have status. So, but you could, if you really are thinking worst case scenario, some of those documents are like, who's gonna be authorized to get into my bank account? Who's gonna be able to pick up the kids? So it's usually because both parents could be vulnerable to being detained. That's why they have this whole packet, is my understanding.
I think through our experience with the school district and other organizations here in Boulder County, that it's a recommendation all of us should have a preparedness plan. In general, what you call the will, a written will, but now, like, let's say we live in the mountains and there are fires, it's good to have a preparedness plan.
Yeah.
Now, because ICE does not technically discriminate.
Right.
So it's good to have a preparedness plan just in case if we found ourselves in that situation. So it's not technically just for immigrants.
Yeah.
It's for everybody. But specifically, maybe because of the color of my skin, I'll be targeted and questioned. And I don't carry my passport around.
Right.
I think this is like a more apartheid kind of state, where you have to carry your documents, because I have my driving license. What I carry with me is my red card. And for me, this is kind of a reference for all my rights.
What's your red card?
The red cards,
the little rights card?
Yeah. And they're available, you can print them, they're available in all languages.
Yeah. So, and what's that website, Rhoda?
This is going to be on, so you can print the red card from Boulder County Immigrant Resources.
Boulder County Immigrant Resources. And then they have a package of preparedness plan as well.
And the red cards are available on ILRC.
ILRC. It's the Immigrant Legal Resource Center.
In all languages. And also they have a video of what to do in this situation.
Oh, that's nice.
So this is wonderful, and I think this is a starting.
Yeah, it's a starting point.
We want to kind of build up on more knowledge that what Kathy shared with us about knowing your rights. I think all of us should know our rights, but also what to do in certain situations. Then this will be another step through the Boulder County Immigration Resources, or you go to ilc.org for additional information.
Okay. And the other thing to always remember is because you're not going to be calm if something happens, right? You're going to be really stressed out. You're going to be anxious. Just remember that you have a right to silence. You don't have to answer any questions they ask. And obviously you can answer the question, are you a citizen or not? But anything else, you can say, I know my rights. I don't have to say anything because you don't want to, what we call, incriminate yourself. It's a fancy word for saying, you don't want to get yourself into any kind of trouble by saying too much, right? So it's better to be silent than to be talking the whole time, okay? And just realize that you are a citizen and you're going to get out of this. There is a difference between being a citizen in this country and not. And yes, it's painful that this might happen to you, but you will get out of it because that is how it works. But you have to be prepared. So hope for the best, prepare for the worst. That's kind of what I tell most people in my practice. Yeah.
So the founder of Seeds of South Sudan, which is the organization I'm part of, has a green card. He lived here 18 years. He never became a citizen. He has been going back to Kenya to seminary, and I was told that he needed to ask for permission to be gone more than a year. And he went online or called a number that he'd done in the past and was told that he didn't have to do that. Do you have any clarity?
So we can discuss it afterwards, but yeah, so permanent residents don't have the ability to just leave the United States for long periods of time. They can what we call abandon residence. And there's this thing called the 1-year rule, so I can talk to you about that. But citizens don't have that. Yeah.
Add one more thing, and this is for our immigrant and refugee community. I came to this country as a refugee myself. And often out of, to get to know you, or the first question, where are you from? And the minute you say that you are from South Sudan, in my case from Tunisia, are you a citizen? You're not obligated to answer that question from anybody if you do not feel safe. So,
Good idea. Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's law enforcement, anybody. Okay? Thank you so much. I'm also available afterwards to chat with anybody if they have any questions.
Let's give a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Catherine made a good point to remember that we are all citizens with rights and responsibility. Everyone is subjected to obey the law, that we are all created equally by God.